I pledge allegiance to the
the
flag
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call.
Croswell,
Here.
Battles,
Here.
Fratelli,
Here.
Durbin,
Here.
Keaton,
Here.
Ronnie, Westbrook.
Here. All right. Minutes of October 25th, 2022.
I move to approve the minutes of October 25th, 2022.
Second it.
Roll call.
Battles,
Yes.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Durbin,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Westbrook.
Yes. Thank you. All right, mayor's comments. So first of all, we have 2 absent council members, but one is present electronically, and that is permitted by our rules and procedures and the emergency order for COVID allowing electronic voting as long as people are in town. So we have a quorum, and we'll proceed with the meeting. First thing up is Small Business Saturday. So, and then there's also Black Friday. So Small Business Saturday is, it's actually backed by American Express, but it illuminates the significance of supporting small independently owned businesses across the country. Falling between Black Friday and Cyber Monday, it's a day dedicated to supporting the diverse ranges of local businesses that help create jobs, boost the economy, and keep communities thriving across the country. So, but I think it all boils down to please shop local this holiday season, and especially on Black Friday. Next up is the flood update. The only news that I have, I think a lot of people want to know what's going on with the debris that could potentially flood our community in the spring, right? I don't know if you've paid attention to previous announcements, but the city has worked with Montana State Department of Emergency Services, and they've agreed to remove the debris for us. However, they are in the middle of working through a legal review to ensure that they can do that. So hopefully we'll see some more movement in that direction at the next meeting. Jim, do you have any other flood updates?
Lizzie's covered pretty well.
Okay. Next up is snow news, and there's no news like snow news. But my message is my phone's going to start ringing about people who don't shovel their sidewalks. So please shovel your sidewalks, all right? And then, Jordan, do you have any words from the police department for snow?
Yeah, just a couple things. So the first thing on snow removal, just residents shall not be putting snow from their residential driveways into the streets. Second thing is just business owners are responsible for shoveling snow and ice on sidewalks in front of their businesses and the entries of their businesses. That's really all from us. There's one more thing on parking. Do you want me to wait till you come back? It's just one little thing, especially in the winter. It's a big problem, so I guess it kind of relates to snow. Just please ensure that parking on Broadway at intersections, you are parked beyond the warning signs. It's difficult to see oncoming traffic even when vehicles are legally parked, and if they're illegally parked, it makes it nearly impossible. And our guys are pretty good about just making sure those individuals, if we can't track them down, they'll get a citation or whatever. And in some extreme cases, we'll end up having to remove the vehicles. But the reason why I touched on that is, there's another thing. Just make sure you don't leave your vehicles on Broadway during the snow season, because that makes it difficult for the plow guys as well. So that's really all from us when it comes to snow, I guess.
All right.
And you mean overnight, right? Don't leave them on Broadway overnight.
Yeah. So there's the, I want to say it's from 3 to 5 is the snow route, I want to say. And things we've seen in the past is vehicles being left, and then usually we'll have to come and get vehicles removed, and it's a hefty fine not just for the parking, but for the removal of the vehicle as well. It just makes it easier for the road crews and stuff like that if everything is all cleared out. And then also, as far as the businesses go, just being able to use the berm to pile your snow and stuff in front of your business. So it just makes life a little easier for all of us living in Red Lodge. There's a ton of it, so. Other than that,
All right.
we're good to go.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
Surgeon. All right, next up is, Jim. I'm sure you have some thoughts to share on snow.
Well, it's best when you get these people you hire to plow out your driveway or in front of your house, just don't plow it back to the street and don't put it in the corners, because we have to come wide and move it, we have to move it back. You put it in our way, we're gonna put it back in your way. It's just real simple. Put the snow toward your property, don't put it out to the street, and don't have, and I work with these guys, when I find them, you can't push it right to the corner because it creates enough, no one can see. You can't see around the corner. When you put a big pile of snow in the corner, now you've blinded the flag. So it's just a matter of, if you hire someone, make sure that they know they can't plow it to the corner or to the neighbors. You just can't plow your snow in front of your neighbor's house. That's not the way it works. Push it up on the berm, push it where we can, but we have that problem. It's a lot of snow years. Sometimes you run out of places, there's nowhere to put it. But we live here, we have to live with it.
Jim has told me, when they quit complaining about the potholes, they'll start complaining about the snow. And I get what he's saying, and I'm sure everybody would do it differently and they do it better. But since each of us can't do it our own way, we have to rely on our hardworking public works department to do it their best way based on their years of experience. So if you have any questions, you're more than welcome to call City Hall. But otherwise, we live in snow country, so let's just be cooperative and happy in the snow.
Madam Mayor, I just came up with a PSA for the community.
Okay, well, we're coming up
Not
on.
out.
All right, well, we're coming up on public comment, so if you want to say anything.
How to get it out.
Okay. So it is public comment period, and we have two public hearings today that require comments from the public a period of time. So those two things, one will be for the recycling ordinance and one will be for the events ordinance. So if you have anything you'd like to say about those things, you don't have to say it now, but you can say it now. But if you have anything, and we'll probably have a comment portion for the airport business too, because there's a lot of airport board members here and we want to hear from you on that too. But right now, if you have anything you want to talk about on anything else, then please come up to the podium and let us know. You have 3 minutes, and we'd like you to keep your comments cordial and helpful. And I state your name and where you live, and come on up. So is there anybody who'd like to make a public comment at this time? Bill?
Bill Bullock, 900 Kainu Avenue, Red Lodge, Montana. I did talk with the mayor. I just want to put it out there. I talked with Dennison too. Visited with Brian Hanna a little bit today. I'm working on some documentation on that end for that, but I think that it would be, I would like to request a workshop between the city and county to flesh out, go through the interlocal agreement that was signed by the city for the county to manage the airport facilities. Have the players in the room, public works and what have you, and clearly identify what the city has signed away, may want back, and just exactly where things fall in that interlocal to see who has and what has the authority to do whatever, so there's no confusion going forward.
Okay.
By the end of the year would be great. First part of next, that's great too, but I think it's something for what's there and what may or could be going on. I think it's important to get it done.
Okay.
Please and thank you.
Thank you. Can you forward us that agreement, the copy of the agreement that you're referencing?
That's what Mr. Hanna asked for that today, along with the most recent survey, and I think Steve had one done.
I can make that available.
Okay, thank you.
There it is. Thank you.
Any other comments?
Good evening, Dan Drobny, 1000 Coos Avenue. I appreciate the opportunity and thank you guys all for your service. On the VRBO issue, I would just ask that the council take into account comments and then survey results and whatnot. Try to use good, prudent common sense when you guys make your decision on whatever that may be. I know there's pros, cons on both sides of it. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I live in my house here. I'm a full-time resident, but I do know that there's a lot of stuff in that pot. Just when you get all the comments, if you could use your best judgment and move forward, that would be great. Regarding our streets, and this is not directed at you, young man. I moved out here in '93, and I don't think sans 212 and 78, we've had a new street in this town since. I know when the resort tax went through, a lot of that was going to be for infrastructure. I know infrastructure is a big encompassing thing, and there's lots of things. I know the water system and water lines and a lot of stuff takes priority. And I know it's expensive, but it's embarrassing to live in a town that we live in, and this is not directed at you, but it's embarrassing to have some of the condition of the streets that we have to deal with. So even if you pick the east-west street, northwest street, and did 2 streets every couple of years, something, because it's, yeah. Anyway, thank you very much. And Jim, again, not directed at you, young man. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to make a comment? Is there anybody online who'd like to make a public comment? All right, that's it for public comment. All right, can you tell me, is this, you make the motion first, right? All right, next up is ordinance 959, establishing a solid waste management system, including collection and disposal of solid waste, adoption of a recycling facility for the collection of recyclable materials, and the addition of Title 14, solid waste. This is the second reading, and it's a public hearing. So with that, I'll open the public hearing, and would anybody like to approach the podium and make a statement about this proposed ordinance? It's included in the packet, and we talked about it at the last meeting. Come on up.
Susan Yerby, 815 North Cooper Avenue. I would just like this to be a voluntary on the people's part, or at the very least, put it to a vote of the people before you pass anything. Cost of living's gone up, and just very concerned about that. And that's the concern of my husband and our nearby neighbors on Cooper.
Okay. Any more comments?
Jay Swears, 301 South Broadway. So I'm unclear about this. I thought 3 years ago it was a voluntary thing that people paid $100 a year and could recycle. Is that true?
What? Yes, that's true.
Okay. So now that didn't work. Is that correct?
Oh, and you're welcome to make a public statement, but we're really not technically
okay.
supposed to be
To
having a
give me
dialogue.
input on that. I should.
Well, you're welcome to call City Hall if you'd like some specific
Yeah, well, I
questions.
thought that was the case. If that is the case, then I don't know, that's why I was asking you for clarification. Then now, all of a sudden, if that didn't work, now it's up to all of us to support that program. So I'm opposed to that. I think it's up to the individual right to decide if they want to recycle that way or not, to pay for that facility.
Thank you. Any more comments?
Lee Stevens, 522 Airport Road. Again, as I've stated before in regards to this issue, people did not elect to put any of you here in order to assess taxes or fees or whatever term you want to use regarding this fee. This is something that should be put forth on the ballot, and my concern for moving ahead with these kind of practices, and I agree with the recycling. I've been recycling both here in Montana and in the other 2 locations I've lived in the last 23 years for that entire time. I'm a huge recycler, but my point is, this is a slippery slope. And this time, and I've heard this from many of you and many other people, it's only $6. Well, this time it's only $6. But if you move forward unilaterally without putting it to a vote of the people, next time, under the same guise of it's for the greater good, it's for the good of the community, maybe it'll be $36. Perhaps after that it'll be $56. This should be put forth as a ballot initiative and put forth to a vote of the people. Thank you.
Thank you, Lee. Any more comments? Any more comments here? Are there any comments online? All right, last call for public comment. All right. Public hearing is closed. So, may I have a motion?
I'll move to approve the ordinance 959, an ordinance by the City of Red Lodge establishing solid waste management system, including collection, disposal, garbage adoption of a recycling facility for the collection of recyclable materials and the addition of Title 14 solid waste to the city's municipal code.
Is there a second? A second. All right, let's go around the table for our comments. We've discussed this many times, and so if anybody has any comments or would like to address any issues, would you like to start, Terry?
Yeah, I think I've said everything that, on multiple occasions. I don't support this. I think that it should come out of our Public Works Committee, working closely with Jim. We'd like to restructure it in a way where it's a 2-year program to see how it works and see what the impact is on the city. We'd also like to have a series of public hearings after we do due diligence to give people the same opportunity like they did for the events to weigh in and let us know what they think. So at this time, I just don't support it.
Thank you. Pete?
I am in the same situation. I do not support this, and I have never supported it. If we pass this as it is, and then the recycling becomes a money pit, it'll be very difficult to extract the recycling from this total project. I think it is premature to pass this without further due diligence, and I feel it's going to be a burden on the city if it becomes too expensive to correct it, and I cannot support this.
Thank you. Kelly?
I guess I'll repeat what I've said many times, and that doesn't seem to be getting through to some members, is that we are not voting on whether or not the city is going to take back recycling with this ordinance. This ordinance is establishing a solid waste management system, which recycling is a part, and then after, it says specifically in the ordinance, in black and white, that the beginning of next year, within the first quarter of next year, the then sitting council, so not even the people at this table right now, the then sitting council will then vote on whether or not we're taking back recycling based on the due diligence that the Public Works Committee is doing right now. So this is not something that is being decided, recycling being decided tonight. And I don't agree that it's not, that if it turns into a money pit, it's something that we can't back out of. That's also, I don't think that's correct either, because we edit and make revisions to ordinances often, and so I don't think it's that hard.
Well, I'm not on council, but I'm going to say what I think, and that's, I'm pretty financially careful with things, and this is what Kelly said is correct. This isn't about if we're going to take recycling back. That would be at a vote in January. But my concern is for the future cost of dealing with our garbage, and I think we're going to be in for a real shock when that contract comes due again. And anything we can do to lower our waste, I think, will behoove our pocketbooks and our community. So, Teresa?
Yep, many of the points that Kelly's made are made in this ordinance. It's in Title 1, or not Title 1. Chapter 3, Section 1, I'll read it if it's necessary, but I don't know how else to get this through or convey. This is not an ordinance that accepts recycling back to the city. This is an ordinance that says that there is due diligence being performed, that they have until February 22nd, the Public Works Standing Committee, together with Public Works, to come up with a package that can be reviewed and discussed at City Council and among city departments as well, and then to have a decision made about whether or not the city will run the recycling center. If they want to, deviate from that plan, all they need to do is amend the ordinance to describe the solid waste management system that the city does have. So this is not a vote to accept recycling back. It's a vote to move it forward, to move ahead with the due diligence, and then to have the new sitting council look at that sometime after February and in the new year.
Thank you. Jen, do you have any statements you'd like to make? Councilperson Jen?
No comments that haven't already been said, thank you.
Can I make
All right, yes.
one more? And I understand what you guys are saying, maybe we're not articulating it correctly. We haven't had a solid waste management ordinance in place to date. It's now November 22nd. If this gets voted in, this won't even go into effect till the end of December. We are scheduled to have the due diligence done at the beginning of the year. So my point is, why put something in place that we are in all likelihood going to modify? Why not just let us wait until the beginning of the year? In fact, we said we do the due diligence by January 1st, and let us take this and make any modifications and then pass it once, as opposed to taking something, passing it, and then knowing we're going to remodify it again. That just doesn't make sense to me.
This is the tool that moves it forward, it conveys it forward.
Why do we need this tool right now?
Things
We're doing
fall
the
on
due
floor
diligence
and don't
anyway.
get done.
Well, you know what,
Consider it a date certain,
yeah.
right?
Well, I would say
There's
this,
diligence
It's taken
to be
this
done.
long to get to this
well,
point.
but that, okay, you can say that, but people that have been working on that weren't even part of Public Works. We didn't even get this until like a month ago. And the minute we got it, we started hitting the ground running and we started doing the due diligence.
That's
Why are
not
you
correct.
smiling?
That's
Terry,
not
you
correct.
know that.
No,
This
what,
has been
what,
on
All right,
our
that's enough.
for a long
We're-
time,
If this has been
more
hashed
than a
out,
month.
what
This-
I'm,
that's enough. And we've gone over these points have been made. If there's no more constructive discussion, we're gonna move for a vote. So, does anyone have any more constructive discussion?
I wanted to add that any of the resolutions that will come forward, should there be an acceptance of the recycling center, either contracted or city-owned, the resolution has not been presented yet to state what the fees would be. So there's probably all kinds of rumors out there. And those conditions that are in this ordinance were put in here under the assumption that the city would be operating the recycling center as it is today, and not completely revamping it to say there would be pickup, or we would subcontract it out, or this or that or the other thing. And it also ensures that it's moving forward while the due diligence is being performed, and gives any committee that wants to look into it time to contact all the contractors that are currently in place and removing material, confirming that it's not going to a landfill, that it is being recycled, getting all those points of contact and everything lined up. There's a huge package of due diligence that you guys are working on and will be provided to the city. And we haven't yet seen a resolution that says what that fee will be. So I think we're getting ahead of ourselves and assuming a lot of horrible things are going to happen that are not possible just by passing 959 tonight.
All right.
Can I make a
Yes,
statement?
Jim.
I'm on the old adage, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. In my possession, I don't get a lot of complaints about our solid waste, what we have today. Our contract with the public services, your solid waste is picked up, you have your cans, you put them, they pick them up weekly, holidays, there's different times, different things, but I have not got a whole bunch of complaints about our solid waste management that we have in place today. This ordinance goes way beyond, to even to the point of, well, we're gonna do this, and there's a possibility you can get $500 and 6 months in jail. Who's going to enforce these new rules, laws you're trying to put in as a solid waste management when we negotiate every 5 years on our solid waste pickup? And granted, yes, you know what? It's gonna go up. The cost of fuel's gone up. It's gonna go up. That's just the way it is. But we're making an ordinance and putting a bunch of stuff in there that I feel is unnecessary. I don't get complaints about our solid waste management. I don't get complaints about, we have the old bears here and there once in a while, little thing, but I'm sorry, but our system that we have today is working. Now, aside from the recycling, that's the solid waste management we have. The recycling is a separate entity. And what solid waste, when you take recycling, what are we doing with recycling? We're gathering this stuff up down here and we're gonna pay somebody to haul it away. Now, we're hoping they haul it to actually recycling the plastic, replacing the glass, the cardboard. That's what recycling is about. Recycling is a good thing. I believe in it. But taking it aside from solid waste, that's a whole separate deal of solid waste. And so you're paying to collect it, you're gonna pay somebody to do it, you're gonna bundle it, and then you're gonna pay somebody to haul it away wherever it goes to be recycled. They combine together, but I don't believe they're both in the same deal, and I think this ordinance is way premature. And like I said, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I have not had any complaints of what our solid waste is, other than once in a while, well, my can won't open or something, the normal kind of deals. But our solid waste program we have today, the contract we work with them, we get very good service and get what we pay for. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Any more discussion at the table? All right, roll call.
Battles?
Yes.
Kelly?
No.
Durbin?
No.
Eaton?
Yes.
Whistler?
Yes. 3-2.
Do you need a vote?
I think so.
Well, then my vote's a yes.
You can't vote unless it's a tie.
That's a tiebreaker.
Oh, so we don't have, it didn't pass because we don't have four? All right. Well, onward to the next item. Ordinance 960, use of city-owned property. The public hearing for this item is open, so if anybody would like to come up and have a word about ordinance 960 for events, please approach the podium and say what you want to say. Any comments? Any comments online? Last call for comments. All right, public hearing is now closed. So may I have a motion?
I move to approve 960 as with the amendments that were sent on to everyone via email today.
I'll second. All right. Discussion. Are you going to introduce?
I would like to motion for an additional amendment.
Okay.
To those amendments that have already been shared. They are minor, but I'd like to go over them if you don't mind.
Yeah, let's do it. What
Okay.
page? And
So I'm looking at 885,
okay.
number 8, and this is just some recently received after we
Yeah.
looked over this today. So 885, number 8, and that's on page
4. Anticipated sources of noise.
Yes.
Okay.
It's another one of those things where we probably want to include an example and for example statement, or a for example and not limited to.
Okay.
Because we don't want anybody to feel like, well, it's not listed there, then we can make all the noise we want otherwise. Just so if we could either put in parentheses a for example, or just say and not limited to. Noises such as and not limited, or including and not limited to.
Okay.
Okay.
So it'll read anticipated sources of noise include, but are not limited to. Is that what you're?
Yeah, something like that is fine. I think that kind of clarifies and gives everybody the understanding that there may be other noises that you're not permitted to make.
Okay.
Let's see, and then on 887A, we say utilities utilized, and I think what we should say is utilities or services utilized. 887A. And I think we did touch on that before when we were editing this and somehow missed it, or we thought it was too wordy at the time, but now when you look back on it, it probably should be there.
Okay, as well as the cost for any city utilities used? What is
Yeah, 87A, let me see if I can find it
The
again.
authority shall charge the applicant for the permit.
As well as the cost of any city utilities or services utilized, utilities utilized. Used is fine.
Okay, so the authority shall charge the applicant for the permit and administrative processing fee as established by the city council by resolution, as well as the cost of any city utilities or services used. Yep. Okay. Anything else? Is that it? Okay.
Was the liability insurance question answered?
Yes. Jody said that if, that $1 million would be the least amount of coverage that we would want, and that, it could be more than that, but if we just kept it as, of at least $1 million, or as set by resolution of city council. So it gives us latitude that if the bare minimum is 1 million, but it could go up.
And it would be stated in the resolution that clarifies what those fees are for different application types and services.
And it'll also be on the application fees and on applications themselves, because if there's an event that includes alcohol, that'll be a higher cost.
Okay.
Higher coverage.
That was my
Higher
first
coverage,
question.
sorry, yes, than 1 million. It'll cost more too.
Yeah,
Is that it for changes?
those are my only amendments, and
Pete and Terry, do you have any changes or suggestions? Anything else?
No, I think it looks good.
Okay, Kelly? Nope. Jody, do you have anything you'd like, or, sorry, Jen, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Can somebody just confirm for me that the city planner has looked at this and signed off on it?
Okay.
Yeah, Jen, this morning, well, actually at our noon meeting, most of these changes are from Courtney, of what she suggested and what she wanted for edits. So
Perfect,
the
thank
ones
you.
that got today were basically Courtney's suggestions.
Got it, thank you.
Mhm. So any further discussion? All right, roll call.
Battles,
Yes.
Fratelli,
Yes.
Durbin,
Yes.
Keaton,
Yes.
Whistler.
yes.
All right, on to the next thing. The airport lease,
Do we,
right?
do we need to, we had an amendment, we had a motion to approve with those amendments, and then I made another amendment. Are we okay in that big package deal here? Good enough?
Yeah, I think we'll be okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
just checking.
All right, because if we need to go back, we can.
Yeah, no, we're okay.
Kelly, if you can just send me.
Yeah, I will send you what I just updated. Yep, no problem.
Okay, so next up is this airport discussion. And I'll give a little introduction, and then I'll let the people who are present, who would like to comment or add something, do that. And then, you know, if anybody has any questions, then we can ensure that those questions are asked so that everybody's on the same page. The reason why, so I've been in discussions with various people from the airport. The big question is this. The airport is essentially a subdivision, and it needs a sewer line run up there. And if we don't have a sewer line run up there, then we can't have bigger hangars built. Because, and any of you can correct me if I need to be corrected on any of this, but it's a requirement that those systems have a separator for the oil and water from big airplanes. And then that water would go into septic system, so, or the sewer system. So, we can't, in order to do that, we need to figure out how much the airport should pay and how much the city should pay. I've passed out this drawing, and this is a drawing from 2004, and I have the notebook that it came out of, if, you know, and I can get copies, but it's so old that it might, you know, you can come see it, or what, you know, if you want some, because the book is about other improvements in the city also. But this is the plan that everybody agreed on back in 2004, and the sewer line had come somewhere in here through here. So that's the area that, you know, and then, you know, at some point the city would pay, and at some point the airport would pay, and then the city would pay. And in order to do that, we need to figure out where everything lies, and what's the airport's plans for the future, and what's the city's plan for the future. And a lot of the public might not know about this conversation, and I'm guessing a lot of council doesn't know about these conversations. And so the idea is to kind of throw it out there for, you know, for your thoughts, and if you have any ideas, these, as we move forward, you know, it's a tangly, snarly issue because everything is related to something else. But we have expressed in our resolution that we support our airport, and we want to continue to support our airport. So we're going to move forward and get some survey done, and then we'll be getting, like Bill asked for a meeting, we're going to have a meeting with the airport board and you know, continue to find out exactly what everybody's rights and concerns are, so that we can move together with a plan that we all hopefully will approve of. So that's why I brought this forward today. So airport board or anybody else who's interested in the airport, you're more than welcome to come up to the podium and add or correct anything I just said. And if you don't want to, you don't have to. We're going to have more meetings, and that'll be the time to do it.
So I'll speak as a private citizen. I'm Bo Ewald and live either at 10 Airport Road during the day, it seems, or at 8 Franklin Lane. And I kind of do volunteer work and head the local users group that looks after the airport and has done a lot of work on it to try and improve it. Including just this last weekend, for the first time, we have a consistent supply of aviation fuel, and visitors can actually use a credit card to buy gas there. So it's a good step forward. 2 private individuals funded that, by the way, and the plan is to give any proceeds, profits over time back to the airport to help improve the airport. So I guess I would say a couple of things. Number one, we gave a presentation about a year ago or something about the various uses of the airport. Some of you saw that, some of you didn't. We're glad to come and do it again. The airport has many, many uses, and I think you would be surprised at some of them. So that's sort of number one. Glad to help educate as we go along. Secondly, the airport is growing. There are more hangars, more aircraft, and more traffic. The objectives of those of us who use the airport and help improve it are to never, ever, ever try to turn it into like an Aspen or something like that, but rather make it a local hub so it attracts more people, does more for can do more for the community, and contributes more economically. So that's sort of, again, what our objective is not try to turn it into this big fancy airport, but rather make it more like the car show, for example, contributes to the local economy. We can do the same thing with the airport and all the rest. In terms of uses of the airport, the major uses of it today are for private aviation. We have charter flights come in and one thing and another. But the biggest use for the community, I think, are when we have disasters, medical emergencies, and then general community use. So, for example, during the Robertson Draw fire a year and a half ago, the airport was the operations center and housed all of the local firefighting equipment that was based here. And to do that, we have built helipads, that go out. The Forest Service and other firefighting agencies have different requirements for the sizes of where their helicopters can be based. So we built helipads out of the sagebrush so they don't catch anything on fire. And we can house 5 of their small or medium helicopters and 3 or 4 of their very large helicopters. And the advantage of being able to do that here locally is that the response time is nearly immediate when they need to get to the fires. Otherwise, those firefighting equipment would be housed probably at Laurel or down in Cody to be able to fight the fire. So we've tried to use the space very effectively to be able to serve those disasters. When the fires come, the firefighting crews also bring lots of heavy equipment in. They park it at the airport. It includes fuel, parts, and all the rest. When fires or other disasters are going on, we also need a good paved runway because the helicopters break, and so the supplies for them and the crews come in on fixed wing aircraft and land on the paved runways. So you need both spots for emergency response to the fires with helicopters, for example, but also a place for fixed wing aircraft to come in. So firefighting is kind of number one, and I think it really was a tribute to the folks who worked here during the fire, but that they were able to control it as effectively as they could with an airport like this nearby. And secondly, you all know the results of the flood in June. And again, we based this time the National Guard, and then after that, the disaster recovery folks from various agencies at the airport use the same helipads that we have for the firefighting. That basically they go along Airport Road from where the hangars are to the north, and then go to the west from there as well. So we were able to do that. I think you all know that the National Guard was very helpful to all of us during the emergency, and I've certainly stated that. They told me personally that of all of the places they've been to fight disasters or help recover with disasters, Red Lodge was by far the best host for them, and that included the restaurants providing food and all the rest. But in particular, it was the facilities that we had that let them get in and out quickly and easily to work on the missions that they had. And in addition to that, we served the medevac community with fixed wing and helicopter. And so we have sort of a regular standing place where an ambulance would come with a patient, would meet a helicopter, and for severe cases, we need to be able to, again, the paved runway serves the King Airs or whatever fixed wing aircraft they have to evacuate people to the larger hospitals like Salt Lake or Denver expeditiously. So in addition to, I guess what I'm trying to get at is, I'm sorry, these are kind of rambling around, wasn't particularly prepared, but we have general aviation, we have disasters, we have medical emergencies, and then quite a few community activities take place at the airport, including the Beartooth Ball several times, the 8th grade graduation during COVID, and a whole host of things like that go on. So the airport, I think, is a vibrant part of the community today, and our intent is to make it more so. And our plans are to expand it sort of as the gateway to the Beartooth, if you will, and attract more economic value to the area by doing that. So the way we see the airport developing is sort of naturally and organically, and probably is in conflict with the idea that developing an industrial park and things like that there. Not opposed to the idea of better sewer and water and all the rest of that, but sort of the idea of an industrial park rather than being able to fight fires and floods, we don't think is in the best interest of the community as well as ourselves. I'm glad to answer questions, and also in particular come back at some point if you'd like. We're in some working session and tell you a little bit more about what goes on there.
Thank you. Anyone else? We have someone in the back and someone in the front.
You go first. Okay, yeah, I'll go first. Steve Smith, 517 North Hauser. And I've spoken to you guys before. I'd like to give you just a quick overview of the board, the airport board. For those of you members of the city council that may not be aware of how it's organized. It is made up of the 3 county commissioners of Carbon County, and there are 4 at-large members, 2 from Red Lodge, appointed by the mayor, 2 from Bridger, appointed by the mayor of Bridger. The airport board is responsible for the 2 airports in the county, one at Red Lodge and one at Bridger. The board, there was, in 1959, the county and the city went into a joint agreement, it's called an interlocal agreement, that at that time, the county and the city recognized the airport was there, obviously. They also recognized that they didn't want to have to administer it. They didn't want to have to deal with it. So they chose to organize the structure of an interlocal, the 2 bodies, county and city, jointly run the airport. And the means for doing that was to create an airport board comprised of what I just represented. There are a number of duties of the board, obviously, to run, administer. The agreement talks about the powers of the board are to establish, construct, enlarge, improve, maintain, equip, operate, and regulate the airport and other air navigation facilities and airport protection privileges. So that's kind of an overview of how it's structured. One of the board duties to regulate is to convey leases to lessees who rent lots. If you want to have a hangar at Red Lodge, if you have an airplane, you want to have a hangar at Red Lodge Airport, Bridger as well, you lease a lot, the hangar footprint, and then you build, if there's not an existing hangar on that property, then you, the lessee, builds your hangar, and that's really the way it's been historically. Again, you don't own the land, you own the building on top of it. You pay a lease fee, an annual lease fee for that lot. You also pay property tax to the county on the building that you constructed. So one of our duties in the at the airport board is to administer and keep track of the leases. And they're about 6 pages. So lately it's come up the last year, the question of who really has authority, and this gets to Bill Bullock's opening statement at the beginning of the meeting. Who has jurisdiction in the end on things like the language in the lease and the terms of the lease? For example, the lease conveys the term length. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 25 years. The fee that the lessee pays for the lot that he or she is leasing. Other items about snow removal, keeping your property clean around the airport, things like that. So there is, I think, a disagreement, or we need more further clarification on, more discussion on who, city, airport board, county, who has the ultimate jurisdiction on what that language in the lease is. I don't think that's clear. Questions?
Anybody have any questions for Steve?
Yeah, please.
When do we expect to see the master plan that's being worked on now? I know it's not directly, related to the lease,
Right.
but just curious.
The master plan will be complete spring. Now, does that mean April, May, June? I'm not sure, but in that time frame.
And I know we heard earlier that the current thinking, if it's to happen organically, is in conflict with an older idea from 2004. Is that correct?
The master plan
Won't
has
address
no
this?
idea. That is not,
Okay.
that document is not germane to the master plan. That plan, unless it's the intent of the city to pursue that.
What role did the airport board have in forming this plan?
The airport board had zero.
Okay, all right.
Excuse me, this says as designated on airport site plan adopted by airport board.
The site plan, what does that mean?
Well, you're the one that would have the site plan, according to this.
Yeah, this is the first time, again, I've only been on the airport board for 2 years. I've had a hangar up there for 12. But this presentation is new, never seen it, don't know. And that doesn't mean to say someone like Merrill, who's been on the board for 25 years, may have some knowledge of it.
Well, and I appreciate that, Steve. And, you know, that's what we need to do, is we all need to get what is going on here. We need to get on the same page with who's doing what, and what's the current agreement, and what are the current leases, and because all that is relevant to the ultimate question right now, which is, you know, getting that sewer line in. That's where this all started, is the fact that the airport needs a sewer line and somebody's got to pay for it. And so that's what we're trying to establish. And it's probably a very good thing for all of us in the room to understand what those agreements are and where the city wants to go and where the airport board wants to go. So I think it's a good conversation,
Well,
and I want it to work for everybody.
yeah, we have a little bit of a problem in that in administering these leases, we send out invoices the first of the year. So there's gonna take some time to come to an agreement on where we go, plans like this or not. So I mean, that's a potential issue.
Well, it's a challenge, but we will find an agreement. Jim, what?
I'm just, on your master plan, one of the things you need in your master plan is you have to have what property is actually dedicated to the airport. Back in 2004, when all this happened, it's never been determined how much property is going to be dedicated to the airport. Now, the subdivision part is there, it's surveyed, you know where the hangars go, how much property is dedicated to the hangar area. But the rest of it has never been determined, so we're working on getting a survey done and what property will be dedicated to the airport. You need that to continue with your master plan. You have to have that information in your hand, or you can't move forward because you have no idea how much of that property is dedicated for the use of the airport. That's what we need to work forward on. And I agree, we need to have this sit-down meeting, the county, the city, the airport, and discuss that. Because one of the other things with this growing city is we have no place. You look at the properties in Deal, that city owns every bit of that. We need some industrial stuff to come in to create jobs, to bring property. That's ideal property. It was brought up several years ago. It was done here. And the airport board at the time said, yeah, that looks good. It never got followed up on. It got dropped, moved on. And I think that's part this meeting, this needs to happen. We need to determine how much of that property is going to be dedicated for the use of that airport. We start there. The problem, what they're talking about the sewer and the water deal, is you have a bunch of septic tanks up there. Some put in without any permits. And that is in our water source area for the city. We can't have septic tanks in the city. We need to get rid of them. We approached you about putting sewer lines. It's available to put in. It's going to cost thousands of dollars to do. Yes, somebody's got to cover that. If we put in some industrial area, we put our share in and we get that, and then we get some benefit back out of it too, as far as the city that there's. So I think the first thing we need to do is sit down, look at this, and determine how much property is actually gonna be dedicated to the airport. Get it surveyed, get it marked out, then you can move forward with your master plan. What can you do with what you have? And that's where we need to start.
Question for you. And you and Kristen, you're talking about doing a survey. What does that, can you define what that means? It's already surveyed. There is an existing survey, there is existing zoning.
Zoning is not, you guys are using the zoning map. That's not the dedicated property to the airport. I'm sorry, the zoning map, the zoning deal did that, that's what's zoned in that area. The zoning does not say, well, everything that's zoned at the airport is airport property. That's not gonna work.
What does it mean then, Jim?
It means it's zoned for that type of stuff. It's also zoned for commercial property, for other things. Like I said, I think that's the problem. It has never been determined. This map we found from 2004 actually did lay out what was dedicated airport. And your subdivision, which is, you never have followed the subdivision rules in the city of Red Lodge, and we need to bring this and get it done. And I think that's where we need to start, is get the dedicated property lined out, get it surveyed and marked out, and then you can take and move forward with your master plan, what you can do, because you're limited. I'm sorry to tell you that. You know that. You all know that. You're limited by the length of that runway.
Limited in what?
In what your airport, what you can't extend, there's no way, years ago, they were gonna move it, they were gonna do all kinds of things. Well, we got a road on both ends of that airport.
Sure, yeah, we can't lengthen the runway, but what bearing does that have on how much of the other land that we want to use?
What I'm saying is the other land, that's city property. We need other uses in this city too. We need commercial properties in this city. And that is an ideal that was brought up years ago. And like you said, back then, the airport board agreed, yeah, we can do an industrial park and have an airport. Now you're telling us, no, we need it. It's all airport. We got to land helicopters. There's other places.
Are you saying that the map that the proposal that Kristen has was approved by the airport board?
Read that statement again.
As designated on, so the light green area, the existing airport facility with runway, taxi hangars, and other outbuildings, with proposed facilities expansion, hangars in areas north and south of the taxiway, and access roads to new facilities as designated on airport site plan adopted by airport board. But, this isn't something we're gonna fix right now, but here's what I'd like to do is I want to find out what the questions are, so that we can get the information, because, we need the facts. So let's just get the facts established. Let's get the most recent site plan from the airport. Let's get the most recent agreements that are superseding, and we'll work together to get what those things are, and we will get on the same page. So, it goes back to, we need the sewer line in, and we got to pay for it. So that's the first and most, that's what raised this whole issue, is getting that sewer line in, and who's going to pay for it. So let's keep the communication lines open and get those, we have a holiday coming up. We'll get those documents that Bill said he'd get us. And if you guys need anything from us, you're welcome to call. Jen, I see you, and I'll call on you as soon as Steve is done. Thank you.
Kristen, we talked at the airport board meeting on October 25th about the same thing, and you guys questioned us, Jim was there. You asked, what do we, the airport, want? And our agreement was we would have something back to you by the next airport board meeting, which is December 20th. Right?
Well, and we'll get, I think we're all working in good faith. And so we'll continue, and we'll have holidays. And, if we end up in January, we'll end up in January. This is a big project. So, and, we want our airport to thrive. And we want to do what we, you know how much city land. And let me tell you, everybody who uses city land wants more city land. So this isn't the first time that it's uncomfortable for us every time, because we would love for everybody to have more city land, but they don't have any more city land. So, we're in a difficult position, and you're in a different, I mean, we all have to come together on this and figure out how we can make everything work. And I think we can do that. May I call on Jen first? Jen, what was your comment?
I just have a question, so it might not be appropriate. It's hard for me because I can't see the room, but I was just curious, what is the timeline that the city council has to get informed fully on this topic before we're asked to make decisions?
I don't think we have a timeline right now, but we're trying to get all the documentation together so that, I mean, like I said, there's the holidays and everything. I don't think there's that much floating around out there, but we'll look at what there is, and then we'll move forward with whatever our next step is. So there isn't really a timeline, but I'll keep everybody informed as to what we're doing and, what our next most obvious step is, what our problems are, if, because I don't even know how we conflict. It sounds like for part of the airport, it sounds like the industrial part that you want to further develop that as airport rather than industrial park. And we haven't talked about, the payment of it or, any of those things. The airport will build as big as it has land, probably.
So there's no timeline for the sewer going in yet?
No, but the thing is on that is the city really can't do much more for larger hangars until that's done. So it's going to be a difficulty for the airport to continue to develop with larger hangars until it's agreed on.
Thank you.
I think I heard, Stevie, I'm just asking for clarification, because I think I heard an argument for a timeline on the lease, the agreement, because they go out, they're renewed at the beginning of the year. But I'm looking at this one clause, and I'm hoping you say that this covers you and you're okay, even though there's a lot unsettled. The rate may be adjusted at the sole discretion of the airport board based on consumer price index surveys and local factors, right? So.
Yes, we can annually
that's
change.
settled.
Yeah, we have the ability to change the lease rate.
Yeah, it's something.
Oh, and with the lease, part of the problem with the lease is y'all have existing leases.
Mhm.
This is for a new term with, basically just to get a new term. There really isn't, which benefits the airport and the hangar owners a lot, but it really doesn't benefit the city at all. The only consideration is 0.5 cent per, I mean, the hangar lease rate is 0.10 cents a square foot, and it's gone up by 0.5 cent.
Why should the lease rate benefit the city? The city, as I said, gave up the rights to
No, I understand. I understand what you're saying, but
absolutely.
Every contract has a consideration, and those are some of the things. Should it include more? It's my understanding that historically, at least according to the bigger document, there was language in there about requiring the sewer and water to go in up there. And
where was this?
I believe it was in the airport chapter of the book that this came out of. But, yeah, you do. You can do whatever you want with the rates that you charge. But as far as the city approving, I mean, I'm not an attorney in Montana or anywhere else, but
You were.
but there's some legal questions about the validity of a lease that really doesn't do anything except for give all the tenants who are all on board an extended period of time. And that's something that I would have to talk to with Denison. But the bigger issue to me, because we aren't invalidating any of the airport hangar owners' rights to be there, and we all are in support of the airport, so I don't see the leases is a burning, I mean, the only thing you're gonna lose is the airport board is gonna lose $71 a year from all the half-cent increases that you're raising. So it's not harming the airport lessees, not having that new lease.
But you said it's not benefiting the city. So I'm just questioning the statement that those leases benefit the city, and that's the reason they're there.
And
Where does the lease money go? Who do you pay the lease money to?
Who does the lessee, to
When
the,
you pay your lease, who do you pay it to?
yeah, and
to the board?
you know what?
To the board.
I would like to not get into, this is more of a legal question than it is anything else, and I think it's
Yeah.
best left with, you know, the city attorney, and, but, you know, I'm not seeing the harm in the, I would put the lease at the front of my plate, my to-do list, but I'm trying to put the big problem, which is the sewer, and the property lines and the historic agreements, and then we can, that's the thing, there's all sorts of fingers in this pot for what we need to get straightened out, to have a good agreement that we're all on the same page with. You know, we want to work together because we like the airport, we like, you know, and we need to work with the city council to make sure that it's working for everybody, and so that's my focus is on it.
I would just, thank you for that. I would just say we've been having this discussion for 10 months on the lease. So if anything that can be done on that,
Well, and we'll go back to what is the thing we want to focus on here, because nobody's going anywhere. I mean, you have good reason, but again, that's a further discussion point, and I'll rely on the legal department, and, you know, we can have conversations, but I'm not, I don't have any more to say on that.
Well, I'd like to.
yeah. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, thank you.
Can I just
Please,
have
come on up.
chance to put on a couple hangers up there? My name is Bill Moran. I own a couple hangers and lease some lots up there. And, you know, I'd like to address just a couple experiences, you know. So first, I think the sewer, I think I'd attest to that would be, sewer line would be great. Because what I went through to get a toilet in my brand new hangar was incredibly difficult, and which is kind of crazy. And I think that the big thing when there's some you know, concerns about the sewer line, it's that everybody that's out there nobody's brought forward what it might cost. So I think that, you know, the comfort level with this is going to really change when I don't think there's anybody out there that doesn't want a sewer line, sewer and water. I mean, they're building expensive hangars. There's one common toilet that's disgusting, and, you know, so I think everybody would love that. And you know, like Jim said, you know, the addition of more septic tanks, the state doesn't like it, the city doesn't like it. I disagree that the inference that it is polluting the water source. It's been tested. It perks fine. None of that, but we don't need to have them. And I think that the sewer issue, as soon as people find out kind of what that plan is going to be and what it's going to cost, you know, what the big picture is going to cost first, and then, you know, we can work through, you know, who should pay for what. So and so on the sewer, I don't think that's a giant deal. Everybody wants a toilet and running water, and most of the people don't have them unless they did it years ago. So and then got the lease. We have an approved lease. We brought forward some ideas that I think cleaned up some language and so on and so forth. I had one that I thought was there's some language in it that's just not great language. It's not crafted well from a legal standpoint. It was done a long time ago, and so I think that, you know, we have an approved lease. We can use that till it gets sorted out. I'm not freaked out about that. But it's not a very well written lease, is my personal point of view. And I read lots and lots of legal documents. You know, on the the business part, I think it's an interesting idea, but I put up manufacturing facilities all over the world and light industrial type stuff. Not so sure the demographics around here support it. And so as an airport user, I would like to see the airport grow and be a nicer spot and have fly-ins and there's a lot of fun things that can go on. And I'd like to see that continue, and I'm just skeptical about a business park. We can't even get, enough people to wait tables and everything else. Manufacturing takes lots of people. Light industrial takes lots of people. So, that's just a math issue. Do we have the demographics in Red Lodge or don't we? And that'll sort out. I think that, a couple other uses of the airport that to kind of, I think, end this on a lighter note. Bo was talking about all these different uses and there's some other things that we do. We connect with the Red Lodge High School, and Bo really heads that up, and it's been a fabulous program getting young people interested in aviation careers. And there's going to be, that wave is coming of 600,000 or so shortage of commercial pilots, great paying job, very flexible, wonderful career. And we've connected with the Red Lodge High School, and we've actually, because of that, we have kids that are going to college and getting their commercial licenses to be airline pilots and so forth. So it's an avenue for the community too, and it's a fabulous opportunity for kids, and there's not many other ways for them to learn about that. We've all donated flight time and brought our airplanes out and those taught classes, and so we're doing good things with our young people to intrigue them about a really great career. And I think that one of the other uses is that I donate aircraft and time, and so do other people, and I fly search and rescue for the county. I have a helicopter and some other aircraft that I use for business, and we donate that to the county, and we do a lot of missions, and we've saved quite a few lives. We weren't successful on a couple of them, but in finding lost people in danger and so forth, but the county doesn't have a helicopter, and that's what you need for that. And it takes half a day to 2 days to get one to fly in from Helena. So that's another use that Bo didn't mention. And we also do what are called angel flights, where we'll go pick somebody up. We moved a burn victim. We brought a guy that got burned, in a forest or a field grass fire, and brought him home. And so we're volunteering angel flight stuff too, at least out of my operations. So just wanted to put some of that positive light on the table. I think we can get through these other things too. And we have a fresh survey, so I'm a little confused that doesn't. I think Jim's saying that doesn't define the airport. We need to go back and look at that, and because I don't know that we've got I don't know that we know. I think we've all assumed that it does, but if it doesn't, then we have to go do our work and get it defined, right? So I think that's all I had to say. I just wanted to add a couple.
Appreciate it.
Could I just follow on Bill
Please.
for one more second?
Yeah.
So it's Bo Ewald again, and I haven't moved since I sat back down, so stay there. When we talk within the airport community about what we really need to do and what, in regards to our relationship with you all and with the airport board and with the county, it comes down to 5 or 6 different things, I think. And I think we can work through them. But the first is we need to be clear about what the responsibilities and authorities are. The airport board has, what you have, and what the county has. So we need to get that clear, plainly and simply. Secondly, at the last airport board meeting, there were 3 different maps shown of the airport. All 3 had different boundaries for the airport. The long-range plan had one, maybe you guys planned to show where the sewer would go, had a different one, and there was a third one that was a site plan that had a different one. So we need to get that squared away. That should be pretty straightforward to be able to do. The sewer, I think, as Bill said, people, we're not, it would be great to have, but it'll come down to a question of cost. And so that's what we need to know, is what's it gonna cost, and what's going to be the impact for the overall airport and then for the individual people there. The land use one will be a big conversation, because since 2004, this is the first time I've seen this, and I've been involved with the airport for 20 years now. It's the first time I've seen that picture. And a lot of things have changed since 2004, and there are now helipads, and we rehabilitated the emergency runway, which is right in the middle of what that shows, and all kinds of stuff like that. So that would be a big ongoing discussion. On the idea of jobs, as Bill said, we had about 10 kids in last year's aviation class. And right now, some kids have gone on to college and are working on aviation, but 3 high school kids right now are working on getting the private pilot's license. 3 seniors, 1 junior and 2 seniors are working on getting the private pilot's license right now. So that would be great for all of us if they do that. And then the leases, good luck with sorting all that out, but I do think the airport board has the authority to be able to execute the leases with us. There is an approved lease from 2012 that you all approved and we've been working on. It's a 20-year lease, and we can use that. And they have the authority to use it. So
Yeah.
if you get stuck on stuff, if there's a path.
It's been approved, so, I did read that the city has to approve the leases, and so I know the old ones approved, but I think we can do better for everybody
It's
when
not
we
written very
know.
well, that's all.
Yeah. What did you just say?
It's not written very well, that's.
No,
that's
you're
all.
exactly
I mean,
right.
It functions, but it's,
No, but we should have a better lease for all those things. That is maybe more inclusive of some of these details that we don't really know. But, I mean, that's why I just don't see it as a pressing issue, because we don't know what X, Y, and Z are right now. But, anyway, so we'll keep working on those things. And I really appreciate all your input and comments, and I'm sure that we're gonna have more discussions about this. So, and you know, y'all are welcome to call me anytime, and I mean, Steve's my go-to. And so, we'll just keep, and you know, the thing is with the sewer is, you know, we gotta pay for it. And we gotta look at the funding mechanisms for that. And you know, we've got the big stormwater line going in, and so, you know, we just have to, but all these things are intertwined, and it's hard to pull one out without pulling the other. But we'll have that meeting, we'll gather data, we'll have that meeting, and if anybody has any questions, let's keep in touch, okay? Courtney, our city planner, our planning director is gonna be around, so she's a good resource, and Jim is always helpful and has a lot of historic knowledge about what's been going on up there. So, and if anybody ever wants to read this, by all means, don't call me tomorrow, because I'm not gonna be here. We're gonna be on a plane. But, you know, if you wanna come into my office sometime and look at this, you can. If you wanna make a copy of it, you can. Yes.
so Kristen, there's a plan, there's some written pages.
Yeah, this
Document.
is a book probably, you know, half an inch thick, and it's not just about the airport, but it's also about the city of Red Lodge. And it has a lot of things that we've done, and a lot of things that still need to be done. But there's a healthy chunk on the airport, so you might wanna, you know, there might be some parts you'd like to salvage.
Comprehensive Economic Development Strategy, CEDS.
Okay.
So does anybody else have any questions or comments?
I do.
Yes, please.
Our airport is a very viable entity, and I think the city should make every effort to work in a cohesive manner with the airport board. If it takes 1 year, 2 years, or 5 years to accomplish both their goals. Now, I substituted the high school, and the enthusiasm of these students who are instructed by these gentlemen out here is amazing. Their connection to Rocky Mountain College's aviation plan is significant. The idea of a survey is something I recommend, and here's why. The Diamond C subdivision on the north end of the golf course, when the two gentlemen began that project, they found out that the original survey was incorrect. And all of the fairways at Diamond C had to be relocated and replatted. I'm not saying that's the case with the airport, but I certainly recommend a survey to determine exactly where the baseline is so that anything that goes forward doesn't have to be redone in the future. And to get a survey like that is going to take some lead time. So I'm going to conclude what I have to say here by saying we need to support the airport board, and I know the airport board wants to support the city. We have an exceptional hospital, we have an exceptional school, and we have exceptional people on the airport board, and now we need to make an exceptional facility.
Thank you, Pete. Any more comments? All right, let's move on. Thank you very much. We're gonna move on now. So, let's hear from the Admin and Finance Committee. Who would like to?
Pete's the only one.
Hey.
Oh.
You're up.
No one will disagree with you.
Well, we had a productive meeting, and I don't have the notes. We discussed the city administrator project, and I handed out the hard copy that we got from Dan in Bozeman. We discussed the texting project, and that's going to be available for the, and we think it's best that you had left the room, that certainly we want to see what this is, but it's you and your department to make the final decision, because you have to use it.
Right.
And if we were to get something that is not comfortable for you, it won't be used. So we're going to allow that to go to Lonnie and her staff after they see some presentations, and then make a recommendation to us. But if you're not comfortable using it, then it's an ill way to go. So so let's see, the texting, the city administrator possibility changing of our charter, and I don't recall, I don't know if there's any.
What about events application? Did you guys talk about
We
that?
talked about the event application, some tiers, not EAR, but IERs of,
Hopefully not tears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
tiers of coverage, for alcohol involved, $2 million, and also some fees. We discussed the fact that maybe based on the attendance, there should be 3 levels of fees, 50, 100, 150, 300, depending. But if somebody just wants the park for 2 hours, they don't need to be charged $300. So we need to make that equitable, and that's all the ad-libbing I can do right now.
Thank you. All right, Public Works.
Can I ask one question?
I don't know.
Well, I just was curious because we were working on that ordinance. So is the expectation, because I kind of talked to Jody about this offline, that you guys will have the application and the fee structure and everything ready at the rollout of the ordinance so that we can move forward? Because I know that there's
Yes.
people that are probably chomping at the bit.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay. That was my only question. Okay, so I guess I'll go ahead with Public Works Subcommittee. So we were talking about the due diligence packet update, and I had talked to Gina again last week and got some more information, and I wanted to thank Noelle as well over here. She's been working with Gina to generate that information. So we talked to Jim, and I think we have a path going forward to fill in the last remaining holes we have for the information. What we're hoping to do, just because we talked about this a lot today, the next steps, once our due diligence package is complete, which I think will be done by the end of the year, the end of December, so we've got most of the information now, is we're going to look over again the budget, because we'll have a lot more information to look at that and just do a sanity check. It may be the $6 that, was proposed at one of our meetings, that may not be, but anyway, that will come out, as part of this due diligence. The other thing we'd like to look at, and the committee would like to explore, are what are the options? What makes sense? Does it make sense, for maybe to add commercial property owners? And we're not saying we're going to, but we want to look at all those different options. The other thing is we'd like to do some see if there's any collaborative efforts available to us through nonprofits or through for-profit companies or the county. So that's just to kind of tie it up. And then we'd like to have, our goal in February is to have a presentation available, much like we did for the events, where we can roll out all the information for the public to see, provide options, and then hopefully be able to have some sort of a larger forum for public input, so we have a very good idea of what the public's thinking around these ideas, and then implement it.
And so are you gonna bring back this ordinance then? Or-
Yeah, I think, well, this is, again, it may be exactly like it is right now, but we would just like to finish the due diligence, and if we need to make changes, make them before it was passed, so.
So do you
That's
have
what we're
do you have a
proposing.
date that you're bringing it forward?
Yeah, as soon as we do February, we'll keep with the original schedule they had in there, except we're gonna move the due diligence up to the end of the year. We'll have the presentation and all the options available in February to make to the city. And then we'll, send it out to the public, and then we'll turn that around and determine what's the best step forward with the recycling center.
Yeah, and, they're leaving in July, so I'm just
Yeah,
trying to get
I
a pencil
understand that.
sketch of exactly what day you want to bring this back, because Teresa will be gone, and that will be in your ball court.
Right,
So
it'll be
I
in
just
for our
wanna
committee.
know
Would
what
you
the-
like the Word document?
Would I like what?
The Word document or just PDF?
It's whatever. I mean, I don't think this has to be a contentious thing. I mean,
I'm just asking the date.
well, what I'm saying is,
Do you have a
at
date?
this point, no, I do not have a date at this point, but what I'm saying is, in every project I've worked on with you, Mayor, I've been very good about laying out a deadline and talking to you about the timeline and keeping to it. And I believe our committee will do the very same thing and continue in that.
I just need to know the date that you want to bring it, because for planning purposes, in anticipation, we have Noel working on parts of that
Mm-hmm.
project, and so we just need to know the city's role in the recycling. So I'll just leave that to your committee.
Yeah.
And you can,
And we know the hard deadline is that they're going to be out in July 1st. We understand that, so we're working backwards, and we'll get it done as soon as possible, working within those constraints.
yes.
Yeah, so I mean, I know that we shared the old ordinance, not ordinance, the old resolution, to the admin committee so they could begin. I think this was where your question was rooted. The timing of the resolution that states any fees, depending on what direction this is headed in, right? All of that, needs to be coordinated.
Right.
As well as the transition plan and the whole thing.
Right.
So I'm glad to hear you're still holding to, hopefully, towards the end of February, having everything.
Yeah, that's our goal. That's what we're working towards, so.
All right, so do you need any more assistance on anything? Because otherwise, it's all in public works.
No, it's in Public Works. We've already talked to Jody. She's in the admin committee. So once we come up with what we think, is a budget, maybe it'll look exactly like it did before, maybe it'll be a little different. We're doing the sanity check with Jim. We're going to run it by Lonnie. And Jody said she'll facilitate that. So we should have that all done too. And like I say, we have most of the information that I think we need done. And I think we have a pretty good handle on it. So we're just going to move forward. But we understand the deadlines and we'll meet them.
Good. Any more questions? All right. Public health and safety.
Oh, that's me too. Okay, so, I just want to look and make sure it wasn't anything else I left out. So we have just been mostly talking about, no, that was it for now. It's recycling's been consuming our committee. So, one of the things I went to the meeting, the monthly Red Lodge Rural Fire District Oversight Committee meeting, and I just pulled out a couple of things I talked to our committee about. Tim Ryan runs those meetings really well. And one thing I wanted to tell, I guess I told the mayor earlier, is that he said that working with the administration has only gotten easier. It's become more efficient. So he's very happy with what Lonnie and her team are doing there. So kudos to them. He did talk a little bit about STRs, short-term rentals, and he's still doing about 3 or 4 of those a day, which are pretty time-consuming for him. He said he's about 3/4 done with the list that he was given. The thought is that going forward, all of the new short-term rentals that come on the books are going to go through the inspection with Tim. And they're looking at increasing the fees because it is pretty labor-intensive. And then after that, once you've been approved and you're, vetted by the city, then every year you would kind of do a self-inspection and have some sort of a checklist, and then you pay your fee to renew it. So anyway, that's where he was going with that. The other thing that was kind of interesting, I'm learning a lot about some programs that I didn't know about, but he's working with the foundation to secure national funding for the community care program, which has been really successful in preventative care and education for the elderly in our community. So that's something they're working on. And then the other thing, Jim, I forgot to mention this at Public Works, he said that he's going to be working with you on a fire hydrant mapping in the city. That was one of the next projects. So I thought that was something of note. And then the new training center up on 78, they have training scheduled for December. This facility is going to be available for training personnel outside the rural fire district, as well as for the police department. So that's an asset to the city. And that was for that. And then the other thing is, one of the things I was working on, or I said I'd work on, is Captain Cope brought up a concern about one wheels in the city and not having an ordinance around that. So I reviewed the current Red Lodge ordinances that address skateboards to see what those look like, and they're kind of minimalist ordinances, which isn't necessarily bad. But I also looked around and I found a comprehensive model ordinance that regulates bicycles and personal transportation devices, and we'll probably see more of those going forward in the future. So that was pretty comprehensive, was kind of pegging one end, and then ours was at the other. And I think we decided that what we probably need to do to meet the needs of Red Lodge is to pick something kind of in between. So that's what we're working on now. And today, Captain Cope and the chief were not at our meeting, so I've arranged to meet with them offline to talk to them and get kind of their input on these ordinances to see what they think makes sense and what is enforceable in Red Lodge. So we'll keep going with that, and I'm going to try to get a draft of this for the last meeting of City Council. So that's my goal, and that's it.
Thank you. Any questions for Terry?
One comment.
Uh-huh.
Find the areas that have sedgeways
Uh-huh.
and find out what they're doing, because that probably will be some premier guidelines to follow.
That's in the Ohio.
It's in the one we have. It's real I mean, there's like 20 different kind of devices people are doing at other parts outside Red Lodge with these motorized personal devices. So yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah, we
Ohio
saw that.
You have segues in it, for
Mhm.
sure.
All right, on to land use and planning.
So land use and planning, we missed Jen today, but we were able to get through a review of 960, the use of city-owned property for purposes of events, right? With Courtney's expertise and requests for changes that made a lot of the things that we had in there clearer. So that was a really good committee meeting today, and you've seen those markups. And then we did not have time to go on to anything else that was on the agenda. And Courtney has left the building. She's gone. So we'll follow up in the next couple of weeks of lot line aggregations and then exploring those code enforcement solutions again. We are also adding a couple different items to our tracker, especially for the purpose of handing it over to the next member that steps into standing committee. We'd like to pick up with Ordinance 893, which is the use of city-owned property not related to events, and to update that, because there are quite a few things that have happened through time since that was last put out as an ordinance. And then the other thing was, we're going to be, let's see, maybe there was only the one thing to add to the tracker. There was one other, but I can't think of it. And then the next meeting that we have will be, probably of interest to a number of people. We're going to be reviewing the recommendations that are made of the short-term rental committee to the standing committee that will be presented at the same time to the planning board. So if you're interested in that, you might want to attend the standing committee and the review of those recommendations on December 13th. And then we'll review them again that night with council, at least give a report on what was presented.
That's it. Thank you. Any questions for Teresa on land use and planning? All right, if there's any correspondence, then it's in the agenda packet and it's available online. And with that, we'll adjourn the meeting. Does anybody want to make a motion? I so move. All right. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you for coming, everybody.